Into it. We're going to start with Bitcoin today, and then we'll kind of go because the market's closed. I don't really think it's too important to kind of talk about that now, and we'll maybe have a little bit better idea about this stuff on Sunday. More or less, everything looked really bad, even on the shorter term leading up to some of this stuff. There is still a chance that we can push back up from the week time frame because stuff was a little bit sold on these shorter time frames. But as usual, everything in the macros still looks bad. So I don't like shorting is a little sketchy at some of these points, or at least holding some of these shorts, depending where people enter it. Like something that was entered like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, it's like whatever. But something that was entered today might be a little bit sketchier. Might not be the best to have like a super heavy position, especially since we're in like kind of a long trend. So we could pop back on Monday. The chances of that are so small, though. I really don't see it happening. So there's not really much of a reason. So kind of that same note, we started Bitcoin in everything's been going pretty well for Bitcoin. I'll put it that way. So let me do this. Everything's been going pretty well for Bitcoin. The issue is where the market's kind of ended and what we're now going to see on Bitcoin. So someone came in earlier, and like when people come in asking, it pretty much I've been looking at the same kind of thing, and I think it's a little bit easy to explain. So let's look at this trend line. I think this is really important. It's not that long. I don't think it touches a single thing, but it's pretty determinant more or less of what we've been doing, and what brings us down to here. So let's kind of get into it. We start the day under the trend line, we come back, we push up. We start the day under the trend line, we come back, we push up. We start the day above, we start the day above. So this is going to be the first day. I was saying earlier, it's like 9, I thought it was 9.7. Yeah, we can. So if this doesn't end above 19,700, I think at most we come back to this line. And I do believe over the weekend we will trend down. So what we'll see at 8 o'clock today, I don't know if it'll actually be there. Let me pause and well, actually, let me pause and just draw a line. I don't want to waste too much time here. Let me just try to figure out where this is going to be. Okay, so we just had this trend line. It's like obviously it's a moving average, not a trend line, but we can kind of get the average price this might be. I'm too lazy to do the math. That we could just take it as an average of what has changed over the last couple of days and just apply that. It's a little too much work for me. So just to keep it simple, let's move tick down. So one tick over and down, it looks like it's going to be at about 18,154. And we'll see how long it takes to get here. And then the next day, it looks like it's going to be right about 18,056. This kind of gets into the issue, and where I think this is where we really trend down and we really start to so I'll just put it this way. I don't need to kind of explain what it is. Anyway, long story short, I think most likely what's going to happen is this is going to be our top. If we do start under 19,700, we are going to slowly move down. Technically, the worse it takes to get down here, or the longer it takes to get down here, the worse. Well, we can check it on a week time frame. Let's do this from here. Let's do this auto off. Let's go BLX. Oh, this stuff is so ugly from what it is. We'll look at this later just to kind of see what happened today. Just to kind of, you can already pretty much just see we just have over the last 2 days, once we came under here, we just have not been able to get above, which was kind of the reason for the name. Apple 120, 142.65 or bust. We didn't start above, we started under, can't get above. So that's kind of just to go over that real quick. And like I said, I'll go over it later. So let's just go to the standard. We'll go to our BLX. We'll go to our week time frame just to show the same thing we've showed before. We'll get our 2015. So we get our 2015 hit on here. We get our 2020 hit, and we get our 2022 hit just recently. So if we do trend back under this and we do start a week under this, this will not only be a line that we bounced off of pretty nicely at 17.8, but this will also be the first time in 7 years for the 200 smooth average anyway on the week time frame that the price has actually started, not just come back after hitting it, but actually started a week under this. So that's pretty significant. To me in my books anyway. So we could be heading for something pretty bad. We're not there yet. So if someone wanted to play it on the safer side, they could wait down there. I think things overall look pretty bad for what it is. The only thing that's been pretty good for Bitcoin has been the dollar coming back down. One big issue is going to be with the dollar coming down and things not pushing up. And if the dollar wants to eventually push up and things don't come up, um, there's a divergence for what's going on. So it's like if Bitcoin even just stays in the same price and the dollar shoots down, and then when it wants to come up, if Bitcoin's still in that relative same area and that ends up pushing the Bitcoin down, I mean, it's like it's just a net loss for Bitcoin. It's not going in the same direction. So anyway, this is where the day is going to be 18,000, pretty much 18,150 or 70, pretty much right there. And then tomorrow it's going to on Saturday. So this is going to be technically like Saturday's candle. This will be Sunday's candle. And then for the new week on the Monday or Sunday night, we should have it right down here. So I think the worst thing possible would be for us to kind of show real quick. Let's say we did just end right here, and then whoops, and then let's say we come down just in any sort of manner. This would be the second, and let's say for some reason we start right under here. I think this is probably the most bearish place, and this has a high chance. We'll see what happens with the market. It's also very likely the market pushes down. Very, very likely compared to everything else because everything's just so ugly. Whether it's amazing to like short at the bottom, that's kind of a different question. It's been pretty good to short at a lot of other decent places. So, you know, but it's like on the macro, everything's bad. Even the midterm, everything looks really bad. And it's like it could push that back up, but it requires people with a significant capital to push back up and people to not want to sell out with what could be one of the worst things that we've seen in a long time. Anyway, long story short, for this, we're going to get brought into this area. So something like this would be really bad. Most likely, this would be the catalyst. We still want to see um, uh, this. Well, technically, by the time we come into here, it's probably going to be something like this is the range because this is going to be a lot lower. But the point is we still want to see something under here, the same as usual. If it just pushes down, we want to see something like this, and then we'll expect a breakdown. So this could send us somewhere around, I believe it's almost 11K now when we hit. It's 11.4 here on a week time frame. I believe it's around 11K if we were to drop. Let's see, I think it's on this week right here. So yeah, it's still okay. So it's still 10.8 to about 11.4, 11.5K. And then really we just kind of got to see what happens there because even though, just take note, we did bounce here, but we ended up falling under and then trending under both times, barely getting above, coming right back under, boom, fall down. Same thing, bounce, came down to the 17.8 area, which we saw was the week time frame. And then same thing, we've been under here the whole time. So it really doesn't look good to me on the short term or the midterm, and the hands that are the sentiment that's been Bitcoin's been left with for the market also as well seems pretty bad. So I imagine the trending down will start once the day, either at 8 o'clock, once the day switches over, or once the day switches over and we come back and hit a little bit of resistance. We can see what it's been doing. Let's get rid of these averages. They're get them out of the way. We can just kind of see what it's been doing here. Bounce, bounce. We see on the bottom side, we come to the top side, we push up, we come to the bottom side. It's pretty straightforward stuff for what it is. And then we can see on these other days, like when we have switched over under it, we did then come back down to this average right here and then push up the 500 interval for the double hole. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm seeing. I feel even more sure about it from when I left. The market really dropped towards the end of the day. I'm not really sure what people's expectations were. Like I said before, I think shorting at the bottom is always a little bit sketchy, but um, like anybody selling out, I think not shorting is reasonable for what it is. Not this. I'm talking about an Apple. So that's kind of what I expect for this. So just I think the main thing is for me, it's just really be careful. Could easily enter a position here. I think it's a lot safer once we come under this week because it's just going to look so like if and when we do come under this week because it's just going to look so bad and it's just really a matter of time. And then as usual, when we come in, then we'll just treat between both of these as a range and we'll be looking for it to come under for an increased short and most like depending what happens and how bad stuff is, usually it's just best to take profits towards it and then wait for it to come under to play because if it doesn't come under, it's usually going to trend back up. So that's that. Let's kind of go to Apple really quick. We talked about this yesterday. We've on stream all this time. So possible reversal is what I was talking about yesterday. And if we just check through this real quick, where did I put it? Here we go. So the possible reversal, and this is why I was saying 142.65 or bust, and the stream today, it had to be like this. To me, it had to be like this. Had to be like this pretty much. If we like, I think this was something else. I don't know why I have this cross here because that would indicate that it starts up here. I guess this was another thing I was thinking that maybe could have been possible. That seems very unlikely. But anyway, the point of this whole movement was the cornerstone of it was we pretty much start somewhere here, we push up. And then we need this, and then on Monday we push up into here, and then we get a buy. And we can just kind of see what we're looking at here. So just to kind of look at the day time frame for this, let's get our averages out. We will be able to see this right here. So right, we can see this is a pretty straightforward short to enter the day. My opinion, it was overselling to bring it back into here. We came all the way back up. We can see on the 4 hour, it looked like it had a decent chance. But you just wait for the next day. And so what we can see on the daytime frame is we just started down here, pushed up for support, and then pretty much came down. So now to look at on the shorter term, and you can go back and watch the stream if you want to. I talk about this. I point out most of these spots and some other things like where some of these areas are the strongest. I guess for more sake of it, we'll put this at, I think it was 86. So we'll just put this here to kind of show a little bit better. It might have been at 84. I don't really care. Anyway, but this kind of just shows a little bit more of the top. Well, it's like whatever. I don't really care. We'll get rid of it. Anyway, so let's look at the start. This is where we start here. It makes sense. We're not going to push down. We're already pretty much, in my opinion, more or less oversold from where the day is. And our range, essentially, the whole range is in between here. This is that trend line, and this is that fib level. So pretty much in the first 5 minutes, it makes the right decision. It pushes all the way up here. Well, it's like, well, you hit the top of the range. To get into the next range, we're going to need to see something, above here, some significant time frame, or even any sort of action. So it just made sense. This wasn't any surprise in this movement. It pushed down. I think this was overselling. You can check stream. I was even saying it was overselling. It just seemed like it was. Why are we trying to crack down so soon, especially if we think of a day? We have the whole day for people to really fight here. So essentially, we push up, blah, 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 blah. There was like, I guess for the sake of it, this line was here at 86, I believe, at 86. So we didn't get something that ended above this. So one issue we did have is we did have both of these here. This was probably the strongest place, but also it's a nice target to push it down under. They push it down too much. We came back up. We're looking for one thing that we can kind of see right here, though, is if we go to a 15 when it came back up, we had a 15 start above here. So there was a decent chance, but we didn't have a 30 end above here. And so from a 30-minute, we're looking for confirmation. We can see it on a 5 and a 15. But when we're seeing it have a little bit of trouble here, we want to look for and like say, okay, well, that's fine. If the 30-minute can come in, because we have to remember 11:30 right there is going to be the 2 hour, the 1 hour, the 30, the 15, and everything below on these time frames. So we not only see the 30 fail to hold above, but we also see the same thing with the 1 hour and the same thing with the 2 hour, which becomes a lot more apparent what was going on here when we look at it from this standpoint, right? It looks like one heck of a fight. It looks like it has a decent chance from the 15 or the 5, and the 15 looks pretty decent from what it is too. But it's always important to keep in consideration the other time frames. And if we're having a little trouble, and it's almost a 30, let's see if we can get confirmation on the 30 of it starting above. So I think it was always probably destined to fail here, regardless. One thing that we can see more or less if we do go into this is, let's go here. We can see if we go to like a 1 second for this, we can see that they did manage to push it down. So let's see, where the heck is 11:30? So one thing we can see, it looks like maybe was it here? No, it looks like, yeah, here it is. Here it is. Yeah. I looked at it a couple times. Okay. So yeah, so pretty much we were doing pretty okay. It had a nice chance, and within the last 5 seconds, we were at 1473. We dropped all the way to 1460, which isn't a lot, but for me, it's pretty important. And then we ended at 1462, which is under here. And then we can kind of see within a very, very, very short period of time what happened if we just zoom this all the way up. I don't know if it'll be able to do it on the 1 second. We'll see, but and then we'll just be able to see this really quick. Geez, it's still kind of slow. Is this 4 minutes after? Yeah, so this was it sat here for about 4 minutes. And then it was just pretty kind of wild for what it was. So I don't know. Can we do it? And then yeah. So we can just see right here. This is pretty much what we were led into. Very, very ugly. Fails, comes back under, and boom, boom, boom. And I really understand this getting sold at the end of the day because there really was no chance the most hope here, and we'll kind of get into some of these short time frames to kind of explain this a little bit better and why it took a little bit of time. I thought there was a decent chance of this bouncing down here. I mean, you don't take a position here. It's like whatever. The first position was like when we started the day, you already hit the whole range pretty much from here. So there's no other trade to be had for the bullish side until you get up here. And then once we ended under 1130, you have the bearish trade. There's no real other trade to take until we really fall out. And we'll kind of see what that is here in a second. So if we check on the 15 and we go to here, we'll see that the 15 looked a little bit sketchy. All this I thought was pretty oversold. But really on a 15 where we're waiting for this to come up and switch a 15 up here, and then we'll expect it to push up. So we're kind of going to the 30 minute there. And once we see that we're straggling here and we switch on the 30, we actually do push up right here. And what we'll see is on this 1430 is the next 1 hour. So it's struggling here, pushes up. It makes none of this look good. This is at most this is a rejection. The biggest issue with this is it's a buy if it comes back up here a little bit. It should have some strength, but who's going to buy it back to this area? And we're just at one of those times where it just didn't look like it was worth to buy it. You gotta have big kahunas here, because even though this looked good, I think it would push up here as most. This also sets this up to be even worse if it starts here on Monday, and would almost for sure make this push straight down if we did just start the new week right here, maybe without even coming up. So let's just kind of go to the 1 hour and we'll see this. So we're still around here on the 30 minute, and 1430 here. And then our 1400 or 2 o'clock, we see the 1 hour. It tries to come up way overextended with the buy. The goal is just to slightly have it switch over, and boom, then we just kind of push down. So from the 2 hour as well, we are down a little bit more. This is at that 330, so this is 1 hour later. And so it tries to push up a little bit. At most, maybe it could have pushed up to here. But it's fairly understandable that it pushed all the way down. And so that's kind of where we are. We can really see it's been some ugly stuff for a lot of this. What we wanted to see the other day was we wanted to see it start up here. Preferably, we wanted to see it start here. It started in arguably the bearish position here, and what we wanted, and it pushed down. What we wanted to see after this is we wanted to see it here, and it arguably started in the one of the most bearish positions. Not like one of the most. I think maybe the most bearish position would have been somewhere right here for a start, because that would have really locked off the this from the start, and then I think we would have played. Probably would have ended up the same, but it would have looked a lot worse in my opinion. It still looked like it had a chance. From a macro perspective, it's hard to see how it didn't have a chance. I mean, this is the same time we came over on the day. We came back down. We have the same average. Boom. This was like free money July for a lot of these things, and janky June, weird May, janky June into. I don't think this was free money, to be honest. This was weird as heck. I thought we were coming down here, which I guess technically I'll throw this out because we have 2 minutes left. This is also a huge point of contention. This is a huge open space right here. Huge open space. I don't know if you see it on a month or whatever. I mean, maybe it's not like a gap, but talking about like an open space, this is huge. So we'll see if we bounce here, what we really do. On the week time frame, I could see it possible of wanting to come back up, but what I'd need to see for this is I would need to see this. This does not look good. If it starts here, I would expect this to get wrecked back down here and then push back down. But if it did start here, I'd need to see a day start right back above this. So all this looks very unlikely. If we do see it start here, I actually have a decent amount of confidence that this can and will be able to push back up at least to somewhere in this area, maybe even back up here to then fall over even harder. But those are really unlikely things to me. Those are just incredibly unlikely, and I really don't think that they're going to happen. Um, but at one sense, the dollar index it's all over the place, but it does look kind of bad overall. So it really kind of is what it is. But even in places here where it's looked sketch, we come all the way down. This isn't really amazing, and nor is this amazing where it started, where it is either. But it just doesn't want to seem to trend down. So that's pretty much it. We kind of talked about Bitcoin in a sense, and on the day time frame change, I think we will have this trend line here be the top, and I do think we will push down. Where we start the next week, if we do start this next week candle slightly under 18,000 or a little bit under it, I do believe we are going to collapse down incredibly hard, and the markets will probably drop. If the markets look bad, we should follow. For Apple, we're looking to see where it starts, but it all looks really horrible. We could see a longer time frame position to take here, and even a short term where it happened here. Take care, y'all.